Welcome to another Riverside Chat at the American River. Look at all the rocks. Tons of rocks everywhere at the river. No real scarcity here of rocks. And that brings up the topic, how much value is a rock? What is a rock worth? The first question is there a demand for this resource? Can you use rocks for anything? And of course the answer is yes. It's used in construction by crushing rocks and then turning it into cement, adding, other materials. And then there's rocks can be used as part of front lawn replacement. I see some homes on the river, they actually do use rocks as part of their scenery. And so, yeah, rocks have value. I guess the bigger the rock, the more value maybe, but I don't see people walking out of the river with big bags of rocks, as if, they're trying to scoop them up before they're all gone. So, there's no real scarcity of rocks, and that's why you probably wouldn't pay much for a rock like this rock, for example. You probably wouldn't want to pay more than 1/10 of a cent for it. Like, you'd probably want 10 of these rocks for a penny at least if you were just collecting rocks from the American River. As far as I'm concerned, the river owns these rocks. It's belonged to the river for what, thousands, millions of years? That takes us into our economy, the Bitcoin economy, the emerging crypto economy. Does crypto really have any value? In 2011, it was like, God, I think it was $1 maybe on the market. You could trade $1 for one Bitcoin. Something like that. Maybe it was $100. It got up to $100 pretty quickly after it was on the market. It's peaked out around 68 or 69,000. That was a couple years back. I think it was actually 2021. And as I'm speaking with you right now, on February 28th, 2024, it's that it opened really strong, like above 60,000, like heading toward its all-time high. And then a bunch of stocks went up with it that are like bit mining companies. Stocks, they'll get a lot of enthusiasm behind them, a lot of media hype, and then they'll shoot up real quickly and then pull back real quickly. So if you bought at the top, like a lot of unfortunate people do during bubbles, then you lose like everything. You lose a ton of whatever money you put in. It shrinks from a big pile to a small pile. Can you imagine if they ever shifted it to the rock standard and all of these rocks suddenly had value? Like, all they would have to do, all the government would have to say is, yeah, we used to be on the gold standard. Then we were on the petrodollar standard, oil-based pricing. And now we're on the rock standard. Wouldn't that rock, man? Wouldn't that be like everyone would like run to the river finally? You notice nobody's here right now except me. But you'd have a crowd at the river, enjoying nature as they picked up bags of rocks, took them home, and then counted the rocks. And then once the supply is used up, they're going to sell them at an incredible price that'll keep going up day after day after day, month after month, year after year, until finally they'll say, yeah, rocks are a store of value, but you need a bucket of rocks. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just saying that as a funny analogy to compare it with crypto, because it's all based on perceptions and illusions and nothing more. Even gold. Gold was discovered in the American River in 1849, but it existed long before that. The gold rush began in 1849, but what was it that brought people here? Was it the gold that had been here all along? Or was it finding out about the gold through existing mass media at the time? I think it was the latter, because people didn't know there was gold in the river like for thousands or 10,000 or a billion years, you know? However long people have been around, they didn't really find out gold was here till 1849. And so it wasn't the gold that brought people here. It was the media telling people that gold was discovered on this river. And one of those media guys at the time was named Sam Brannan. That's the name of my junior high school, Sam Brannan Junior High in Sacramento, California. And Sam Brannan wrote for a San Francisco publication, and it was Sam Brannan's stories that brought people here, people learning through news sources. People read about it and it caused them to move here. And so California developed a rapidly growing population because of the gold rush. But did people get rich from the gold rush? Not too many. The companies that sold shovels and hired slaves to mine the gold, they did all right. Not all of them, but some of them. But the average person who came here with their own tools to do gold mining, they became poor. And so it wasn't hard for them to join a mining company, because that's where the money was. They'd at least, you know, get food and clothing and all that. But if you were here on your own, it was tough to find gold on the river. Because even though gold was plentiful at the time, if you did lots of mining, it was still scarce. And so it's scattered. It's a scattered resource throughout the water, and you have to do a lot of mining to come up with a lot of gold. Again, it was all a perception based on media hype. You know, the media said, hey, there's gold in California. So it created this rush from all over the world. That's how California became such a melting pot, specifically San Francisco, because even though the gold was discovered up the American River east of Sacramento, like in Coloma, the gold was stored in Sacramento before it became a city at a place called Sutter's Fort. And John Sutter was the founder of Sacramento. If you don't count all the history before that, you know, he had to conquer the land first and drive out the natives. He hired some of them as slaves to help with gold mining and to manage the fort. Basically, the perception of gold, you're going to strike it rich by racing to California, was just a bubble. It was just a big hype thing. And so a lot of people were left in the cold. Just like if you buy a bubble at the wrong time and then it pops on you and then you lose everything. That's kind of what the gold rush really was. But again, some people got rich, and those companies that got rich, they turned into railroad companies, and then they got richer. So that's the story of the gold rush, which is kind of like any kind of bubble. Keep in mind that it's all about perceptions, illusions, and hype to form a bubble that doesn't last forever. What is the utility of Bitcoin? Wow, you can trade it. That's one thing. And at the moment you could trade it higher, but keep in mind it could go lower. I keep warning people that, and then it keeps going higher. But pay no mind to what I say. I'm no financial advisor. I'm not your advisor. Everyone has to do their own research when it comes to finance. That's, you know, that you have to take that position if you're going to be successful at it, at this game of gambling. I mean investing. But every trade is like a gamble. And so it raises the question, what is the utility of what you're trading? Like, if you, does it really operate in the market as something useful, or is it just more of a mirage that people say, you know, is valuable only because of whatever, you know, a couple reasons, like, oh, there's only so many of these things ever going to be made. That's so funny. That's hysterical to me. Because you could say that about anything. Like, there's only so many of these trash cans that will ever be made. Therefore, each one is worth $1 trillion in the big picture. What is the utility of Bitcoin? I can't think of much, okay? Besides, you can use it as currency. It can be a store of value. It can be used for certain types of games, like online games, maybe online gambling, maybe, you know, international trade type stuff. Like, maybe it's a, who knows, maybe it will replace the US dollar or the petrodollar or whatever runs this world. I mean, there's the possibility, if enough enthusiasm catches on and the media keeps pushing it as if this is a gold rush of 2024, yeah, it's possible that it could take over as like the currency, the global currency. I'm not counting on that. I'm thinking more the hype is going to burn out before the count runs out of Bitcoins. 21 million they're going to make. Okay, whatever. I don't care what number they came up with in the beginning. Whatever the program says, whatever the algorithm does. Just letting you know that Bitcoin doesn't have much utility. If I were on a stranded island or lost at the river, I don't know what I would need Bitcoin for. Gold has utility in many ways, because not only can you use it for electrical wiring that is superior to other metals, it looks nice, it sparkles, it shines, so it can be used for jewelry, which is what it's been used for thousands of years. And so gold in that sense will always have value as jewelry. It's just looked upon because of its beautiful shine and color. It's looked upon as just a high form of natural resource, and it probably always will be that. Like, I don't think crypto will ever overshadow gold as a useful resource. And what can rocks be used for? Well, here's a list. We'll talk more about bubbles, whether they're bubbles in the river or bubbles in the stock market or bubbles in drinks. We'll just talk more about it on another Riverside Chat.